Here we go. We're cutting it off.
I'm dry as a desert, baby.
That you are cutting yourself completely off from men. Does that include trans men?
There's a new feminist trend taking the internet by storm, but unfortunately, it's kind of tragic. We're going to break down the latest feminist trend on TikTok, known as the 4B movement that's surging after Trump's big election win, and so much more. On today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet and across our politics, all from an independent perspective. Quick heads up, there'll be no show tomorrow, Thursday, as I'll be traveling for a campus event I'm moderating at the New College of Florida. We'll be back Friday with another Viral Video Friday, so try not to miss me too much. Now, we've got to talk about the latest trend on TikTok among feminists because some of the videos going viral are absolutely insane. But even aside from the extreme outliers, the general trend is picking up steam to the point where it's now being covered by the New York Times, and I'm afraid it's leading young women in a heartbreaking direction. First, to give you a taste of the more extreme wing of this new feminist movement, here's one video of an outraged feminist influencer shaving her head to protest Trump's win and explaining her new boycott against men.
Just woke up this morning feeling spicy. You guys feel spicy? Because I do. All right. I don't know how to use this thing. Let's see what happens. Is this cutting off hair? Okay. I'm going to have to cut it shorter than that. Buzz it down, right? Have I given up on America? I've also given up on coloring this hair because, right? Coloring my hair, having my hair be long and luxurious, all that shit. Being skinny, being hot, being all the things that the patriarchy wants us to be, because clearly they don't give a about us. And I'm talking to you too, those of you ladies who have the internalized misogyny required to do what you did. Minorities who are so scared of a woman in power that you'd rather cozy up to the white man just in case some crumbs fall off his plate so that you may eat from them. Yes, scraps. Let's just do some cutting. You know why? Because this is taking too long. Here we go. Short hair we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We're cutting it off because you. That's why. You think I'm crazy? Me too. Crazy. Just like all the women before me who were crazy.
Well, she seems stable. I don't know how Trump is ever going to recover from this. I mean, look, it's your body. I do believe you can do whatever you want with it, but I just don't see how shaving your head, purposefully gaining weight, or making yourself less attractive in whatever ways you think you're doing so is going to make you happier or better off. And spare me that the women who voted for Trump just all internally hate themselves and hate women. It could actually just be that they have different views on everything from immigration to economics to the border to abortion and beyond, and they're individuals who are allowed to think differently than you without being some form of gender traitor. Same with minorities. It's actually rich to hear a white person scolding minorities for not thinking the way she thinks they're supposed to because of their identity, and suggesting they are just so deeply sexist that they're willing to betray their own race. It's actually not as simple as 50% of the country being irredeemably, hopelessly bigoted and hateful. And if you think otherwise, you live in an echo chamber and you need to go out there and actually talk to people, including, in your case, potentially a therapist. Now, this woman is just the most extreme example of this feminist TikTok trend called the 4B movement, where women are protesting men and swearing men off entirely. It existed before Trump's election, but has really skyrocketed in popularity after Trump's somewhat surprising landslide win. So much so, the New York Times is now profiling it as a social movement on the rise. The Times writes in a headline, "After the election, a call for women to swear off men." They report that interest in South Korea's 4B feminist movement, which rejects dating, marriage, sex, and childbirth, has risen in the United States. Like they mentioned, this is a movement that originated in South Korea years ago, and people have been talking about it online since before the election, but the boom in interest really is coming right after Trump's victory. Following the results of Tuesday's election, Jada Mevs, a 25-year-old living in Washington, D.C., is encouraging women to take action by signing up for a self-defense class, deleting dating apps, getting on birth control, and investing in a vibrator. Here's her video that went viral.
Number one, you sign up for a self-defense class and go get that thing registered. Because all the women are saying, oh, I'm not giving it up, I'm not giving it. Guess what? They're going to take it. They have always taken it. They're just going to take it more now. Dating apps, delete all profiles. Don't just delete the app, delete the profiles, and then delete the app. Third step, stop talking to the men. Delete, block, say your goodbyes. The fourth thing, get your bodily affairs in order. Whether that means stocking up on certain pills, stocking up on birth control pills, getting them tube side. Hell, remove your uterus. Just to be extra safe. All right, ladies, we have some work to do before January.
I will say, the first part of this, totally based. Women should learn how to defend themselves, and if they want to, should absolutely carry guns to defend themselves. I am fully supportive of that. Now, do I really buy the premise that men are going to be increasing the amount of sexual assault because of Trump's victory? No, I don't. I don't think we saw some massive spike in that from 2016 to 2020. But regardless, I am fully supportive of women defending themselves and exercising their Second Amendment rights. Glad to see some of the feminists are now admitting that maybe the right-wingers had a point on that one. We'll get into more of the points from that video in a little bit, but I just wanted to say that real quick. And again, according to the Times, interest in this 4B movement, swearing off men, sex, dating, children, and the like, has skyrocketed directly after Trump's victory, according to the numbers. They report that searches for the 4B movement in the United States spiked the day after the election, according to Google Trends. Dozens of videos on the topic have popped up on TikTok in the last 48 hours, with users sharing why they are for or against the movement gaining steam in the United States. So it's not just a few videos. This is a movement that's really actually picking up some concrete steam. And I find that concerning. I am not convinced that this advice is going to lead most people to a happier and better life. I also think it's only going to further antagonize men and worsen the gender divide, like this video clearly does.
Not that my content reaches a lot of men because I have an IQ of 130.
Oh, and you're also very humble, clearly, and not at all sexist or condescending.
But I want the men in this country to know that half the female population, we're dry. We're probably gonna stay dry. I'm dry as a desert, baby, and I don't want it to change.
That's a little too much information. The world did not need to know that, my dear.
Yeah, we're not gonna like you anymore. You understand that? Like, it doesn't matter if you take away abortion. Like, we'll want to have your babies even less, right? Even if you take away contraception, like, women are really good at celibacy because you guys are actually a threat to us.
Some men are a threat to women, and that is tragic, and I can totally understand their concerns and fears on that front. That's why I support women defending themselves and their right to bear arms. But there's no serious mainstream movement to take away birth control or contraception. And it's your life, so swear off men if you want, but I don't think that's good advice for people generally. I don't think it's going to lead to happiness or fulfillment in the long run.
So we have a lot less to gain from you. So yeah, 4B all the way. Let's make some money, I guess. That's all we can do now.
I mean, like I said, it's your life. I totally think you're free to live it how you want, but pursuing money and neglecting family and having children might work for some people, might be what makes them happy, but I don't think will fulfill most people. And I don't think it's good advice that actually has your audience's best interests in mind. And this content associated with the 4B movement, this new feminist TikTok trend, is clearly and openly antagonistic towards men in a way that's only going to make these gender wars and this gender divide even worse. Other than that, you're doing amazing, I guess. Now, I do have to laugh because nothing, and I mean nothing, is ever truly woke enough in 2024. So you have another side of TikTok, the trans, LGBTQIA+, Wi-Fi password, whatever, community that is even further left than the 4B feminists, explaining why actually the 4B movement of women going their own way is actually problematic because it's trans, exclusionary, non-binary, phobic, two-spirit, whatever, I guess. Seriously. Listen to this.
I'm really concerned about the rise of the 4B movement here in America, not because I don't support it, but because I think that it could lead to a lot of gender essentialism and a lot of transphobia in the end. When we have movements like this that are centered around cis women, I'm concerned that it's going to lead to more transmisogynistic rhetoric, and it's also going to leave behind a lot of people that are not women that are also oppressed on the basis of sex. When you say that you are cutting yourself completely off from men, does that include trans men? Does that include trans masculine people? Does that include people that are also oppressed on the basis of their reproductive labor but happen to be a different gender than women?
Guys, I cover this stuff for a living, and even I can't keep up. It is such a relief to be center right or just even not on the left, because trying to stay in the good graces of these people and constantly avoid stepping on an eggshell or saying something problematic must be so exhausting, because nothing is ever good enough or ever woke enough for some people on the internet. But let's get serious and talk about this movement more broadly for a second. I think it's profoundly disrespectful, the pop culture appropriation of this actual movement of necessity in South Korea to the struggles and true entrenched sexism and inequality that women face in South Korea, that American TikTok feminists are appropriating this trend and cosplaying as The Handmaid's Tale or something. When in reality, while there are some issues that we're working out as a society over things like abortion access, women in America have a profound sense of freedom and have things pretty good. Meanwhile, in South Korea, this movement emerged because of widespread intimate partner violence, huge economic inequality and a lack of economic opportunities for women, and a societal expectation where society basically failed to treat women as adults unless they got married. None of that exists in 2024 in America for women at anywhere near even a fraction of the percentage. Not to say everything's perfect, all sexism is gone, but it's nowhere near that level in America. So I can't help but think it's kind of insulting to the actual plight of South Korean women who originated this trend for American women to appropriate it just because they don't like how the election result went. And I genuinely don't understand this idea behind the 4B movement of swearing off all men. Because even if you're a young liberal woman in America who would refuse to, say, date a Trump supporter, well, like 40% of men still voted for Kamala Harris. Why can't you get with one of them? Why can't you, if you're a diehard person who believes in unlimited abortion access, marry a pro-choice man? I mean, if you're somebody who truly already wanted to be single and didn't want a relationship before this movement, and that's what's right for you, more power to you. It's your life. Do whatever will make you happiest. But it seems like this movement is targeted at people who would otherwise want relationships, want love, want marriage, want kids, but are forswearing it because of our current political climate. And that I just don't understand. The math is not mathing. You're saying that people should deprive themselves of the things they want that will make them happy as a protest to a portion of society that doesn't care if you shave your head or if you don't get married, when they could be building a life with people with similar values. Like, am I missing something? I don't get it. I'm usually able to put myself in the mindset of people, and I fully admit I am not an expert on heterosexual dating dynamics, but I'm usually able to put myself into the mindset of people, even when I disagree with them, and kind of understand at least how they see it. I really struggle with the 4B movement to even get to the 2 + 2 = 4, even from their perspective. Now, I understand wanting to take steps to avoid an unwanted pregnancy if you're in a state that won't have abortion access, although I think many of these people are in blue states that will have it regardless. But surely you can do that through various forms of contraception that aren't going anywhere, like IUDs, condoms, or even the day after pill. So I think people are just swearing off key parts of life for no real reason in a political temper tantrum. And I think that's actually terrible advice, that if people out there, young impressionable women on the internet, do listen to it, will lead many of them just towards unhappiness and a lack of fulfillment in life. How that's actually feminist in any meaningful sense of the word, I just don't understand. And the 4B movement in its current form is clearly antagonistic towards men, which is not going to win more men over to your side. It's only going to push them further into the hands and the arms of the people that you're upset about them aligning with increasingly in the first place. So much so that even an opinion writer for the New York Times, a feminist woman, wrote that this movement is a mistake, in part because, from the perspective of people like her, they should be uplifting and embracing liberal pro-feminist men, not castigating all men for the actions of some or even a majority in cases like supporting Trump. Because if you're just going to discard all men because of the actions of many of them, then what incentive is there for these young liberal men to stay that way? If they're just going to be discriminated against and cast aside regardless, how is that a feminist movement that's going to be appealing to them? So I just view this movement as inherently kind of toxic and self-destructive. But that's just my take on all this. I'm really curious for my audience's feedback on this, so do let me know in the comments. Do hit that like button while you're at it. Remember, guys, I do take the time to read the comments, and I pick a few to respond to in every episode. Plus, if you leave your comment with a super chat or a super thanks, I'll definitely respond to it on Friday's show. And now, it's time for Brad versus TikTok, my daily segment where I take on the craziest ideas from the Clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slug.
Today, this non-binary TikToker is descending into hysterical madness over Trump's win. Take a listen.
Fellow non-binary friends, this is going to be a tough 60 seconds, but very necessary. If
Oh boy. I mean, oh they.
you have an X as your gender marker on any of your important documents, or if you have different gender markers on different documents, consider getting that changed.
I'm sorry, but your documents should list your biological sex, because that is an important fact for people from doctors to, yes, the government for things like prison segregation to know. If they want to add some sort of other box for gender identity where you can say that you feel like you're non-binary or something, I guess knock yourself out, but your sex shouldn't say X or some third option or be changeable. It should be your sex observed at birth.
I have an X for like unspecified on my passport. I love my X. It gives me gender euphoria. And I'm giving that up for the next 4 years because I want to live.
What? Do you think Trump is gonna kill non-binary people? Did I just miss the part of 2016 to 2020 where anything like that happened? The Delulu is off the charts with this one.
While we don't exactly know what the next president is going to do, he has said that he wants to establish law that there are only male and female as recognized genders. I hate it too.
Okay, so Trump only wants to recognize male and female genders. We can have a conversation about that. We can debate the merits of it. But where did you get anything about killing non-binary people? Just viewing them as their birth sex, not their gender identity, isn't murder.
And I think that as non-binary people, we need to have a very serious discussion about what we pass as in society and what would be the safest markings for you to have on your important documents. It's a shitty thing to think about, but knowing what you pass as best is going to maybe save you a lot of trouble down the line. And while our genders are our own experiences, they still require participation from everybody else that we interact with. And I don't want either one of us to lose out on jobs or housing or anything that's going to require our legal documents, because it may well become legal to discriminate against us.
This doesn't even make sense. It was literally Trump's first Supreme Court nominee, Justice Neil Gorsuch, who wrote the Supreme Court decision making it illegal to discriminate against gender identity in employment decisions in the first place. I don't think that's going away, first of all. And even if it does, would you really want to live somewhere or work at a company that, if they were allowed to, wouldn't employ you or house you because of your gender identity? I can't speak to gender identity, obviously, but from the perspective of sexuality, as a gay man, I can say that I wouldn't want to work at a company that would refuse to hire me because of my sexuality if they could legally get away with it. And I wouldn't want to live in an apartment complex that, if they were allowed to, wouldn't have my kind in their building, which I think would be a vanishingly small percentage of society these days anyway. But like, I wouldn't want to force myself into that company or that complex or whatever through anti-discrimination law in the first place. Like, I just don't relate to this.
For example, I'm changing all of mine to female because I don't pass as a man anymore.
I'm gonna go with no comment on that one.
I'm permanently transsexual. I'm never going to ungrow tits, and I don't want to. I have various feminizing procedures coming up, and I'm not going back.
I mean, okay. I don't really think anybody's gonna make you. Also, I'm pretty sure this creator lives in New York City, so they're definitely not gonna be making you. It feels like you're shadow boxing with this incoming wave of oppression that is largely imaginary. But I guess it makes for good content in a perverse social media ecosystem that has made victimhood a form of social currency.
Right now, for your social security card, you only get 2 choices anyway. And if you live or have a license in a hostile state, having that social security change may help you get those other documents changed. I'll do another video on that later. Suck it up and do it now while you have the time. Grieve later and know that no matter what that thing says, you are who you say you are. I believe you, other people will believe you, and we got to get our legal documents in order to keep each other safe.
Grieve what? Nobody died. Calm down. And is their perspective really that you are whatever you say you are? Because there does have to be a limit at some point. If I say I'm a Chihuahua, I'm not, in fact, a Chihuahua. And again with this safety thing, New York City non-binaries are not going to be in danger anytime soon. Even red state non-binaries are not going to be in physical danger, even if they might not be able to get an X on their paperwork. I don't appreciate people spreading this level of fear-mongering and alarmism and hyperbole because it's really putting people in dark places and making them experience levels of fear and anxiety that are just not warranted by the actual facts of the reality we live in. That is not social justice activism. That is actively harming your own community and making people suffer unnecessarily. Other than that, though, I guess you're doing amazing. What did you guys think of this video and this interesting character? Please do let me know in the comments below, and do hit that like button to reward my suffering because gosh, these videos are slowly destroying my brain cells. And now, I'll wrap up today's show by reading a few of your comments from recent videos. One person says, I think it's interesting how they keep talking about women cutting off mostly the men in their life who voted differently. In my marriage, I'm the Trump voter and my husband voted Kamala. Our marriage is going strong. We aren't on the rocks. We understand we want the same thing for our society. We just have different thoughts on how they should be achieved. Good for you. Honestly, you are modeling healthy adult relationships. And yeah, it is implicit. All the men voted for Trump and all the women voted for Kamala, when actually it's like a lot closer to 50-50 than they're suggesting. It's not 50-50, but it's a lot closer than their rhetoric would have you believe. Another person writes, hey Brad, longtime watcher. Well, thank you. Can you do an episode that goes over the new clip of Charlemagne in the studio where he says something like, they said he was Hitler and he was so dangerous, but they aren't saying any of that now. It's like they were lying. Are we going to have a peaceful transfer of power? I think the point should be highlighted. Maybe on Sky News? Wink, wink. Well, thanks for your support and your viewership, and that is an interesting clip. I'll have to check it out. I don't know if I'll cover it, but I'll check it out. And I think I agree with the point that all these people who said Trump was literally going to be the new Hitler, all this stuff, I don't think they fully believed it. I think they knew they were exaggerating. They knew they were being alarmist, because if they truly did believe that, their actions now wouldn't be as civil and as reasonable and as democratic as most of them have been. Like Kamala conceding the race, like Biden inviting Trump to the White House, all of that. They wouldn't do that if they actually believed he was the new Hitler. So I think Charlemagne's right that a lot of this rhetoric was BS all along. Another person commented, if you keep turning left from the center, you'll come out on the right. Of course, Republicans have to remember the rule works both ways. That's an interesting thought. You're making me remember my 9th grade geometry in my head as I try to picture that. Another person says, how does that gay man even think his gay rights would be taken away? And Project 2025, these people are truly stupid. Thanks for all you do, Brad. I mean, yes, but also they have been just force-fed so much propaganda. And if they watch MSNBC for their news, they would have been told by very serious-sounding hosts and reporters that Project 2025 is Trump's agenda, and it is going to be enacted, and it is going to revoke gay marriage, and all this stuff. I mean, heck, in Michigan, we were spammed with ads here that are straight-up lies, like Trump's going to ban IVF, like Project 2025 is Trump's agenda, these things that are just factually untrue. So I do have some sympathy for how these people could be so misinformed, because they have been barraged with false claims and propaganda. So I don't think they're inherently stupid people. I think they've just allowed themselves to be brainwashed by inaccurate media sources. Another person comments, so Democrats are saying women can't become presidents on their own, so we have to rely on the patriarchy to make a woman president. Am I the only one seeing this? That is such a good point. This guy on CNN advocating for this, he's literally saying that the way to have our first female president is for a man to go out of his way to give her a presidency she didn't actually earn. And they're calling that feminism. Hard pass from me, folks. Hard pass. Another person writes, as a 55-year-old woman going into law enforcement, I'm doing reserve/voluntary first before the academy because I want to earn my place on the force, as well as make sure I can effectively do the job and not be a liability. As a woman, I would get pushed through the academy with no problem. It is extraordinarily demeaning to install her as VP, then candidate, then POTUS, simply due to her sex. Look, I agree with you, and it sounds like you're taking the right approach. I'm all about women having equal opportunity to pursue almost anything a man can. I mean, there's some very narrow exceptions, but generally speaking, I'm all about that. I just believe in meritocracy for everyone and not condescending special treatment for anyone. Another person writes, happy birthday, love. Keep on being a voice of reason. Well, thank you, and I will do my best. Thank you guys for making it all possible. The podcast numbers have been way up since Trump's big win. I'm hoping they stay up, but they might go back down. Maybe interest has just peaked. But I will be covering the Trump presidency. I'll be giving you both sides, calling balls and strikes. And I hope you guys stick around for what is certainly, no matter how you feel about it, going to be a wild, wild ride. And with that, that's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button before you go, and do comment with your thoughts. I do read the comments, and I pick a few to respond to on every episode. Plus, if you comment with a super chat or a super thanks, I'll definitely respond to it on Friday's show. Remember, guys, no show tomorrow. I'll be traveling. Don't miss me too much, and we'll talk again Friday.